I'm applying pressure. My thing is this: I seen it all. I'm there to entertain. You know, you show up and I'm gonna show up.
What did you just call me? I didn't call you anything.
Mayweather.
Yes.
But they like
Mike Tyson and Mayweather don't like each other.
Huh.
Sparring.
Yeah.
Right? It looked like there was agreements made.
Yeah. Working.
I do not know if Mike would honor any of those agreements.
I was thinking about the fight just now, but I don't know.
Mike Tyson just exposed something absolutely wild about his upcoming fight with Floyd Mayweather that has the entire combat sports world in complete shock, as sources claim Floyd's legal team has been negotiating specific contract clauses that would fundamentally change how this April 25th fight in Congo goes down, and the details are way crazier than anyone expected because Mike recently spoke about these demands and what he revealed has people questioning if Floyd is actually scared of getting in the ring with Iron Mike at 59 years old.
A lot of times, you know, in the past, people was like, you know, you hear people say that, you know, from what I hear, Floyd Mayweather is scared. He's a coward. Me, myself, I don't want to see a coward fight. This is called boxing. And I'm the best at what I do.
The biggest bombshell involves the knockout rules according to people close to the contract negotiations, as reports suggest Floyd's team is pushing for exhibition guidelines that would either eliminate knockouts entirely or create special protocols if someone gets dropped, and insiders claim this stems from the Masters boxing regulations that apply to fighters over 35, which can include no knockout provisions to protect older athletes from serious brain trauma, so Floyd apparently wants these safety measures locked into the contract before he signs anything final.
It's how you win. And people always remember a winner. I always find a way to win. So with my career, they're gonna say, no matter what you say, Floyd Mayweather found a way to win.
Mike's reaction to this demand was reportedly direct and brutal, as sources say he told people in his camp that he still can't believe Floyd actually wants to fight him, and that this whole thing will be detrimental to Floyd's health regardless of what rules they agree on. So people who heard Mike discuss this say he sounded almost amused, like he knows something Floyd doesn't about what happens when they are both locked in that ring together, and Mike mentioned the contract is signed and happening, which means Floyd agreed to step in there despite knowing what Mike can do.
Contract, big boy. Come on, sign the contract.
The glove weight situation is where things get really interesting, because according to insiders, Floyd's team is demanding 16-ounce gloves instead of the standard 8 or 10-ounce gloves used in professional boxing, and for context, that's double the padding of normal fight gloves. As sources claim, this serves two purposes. It slows down Mike's devastating hand speed because heavier gloves are harder to throw quickly, and it provides Floyd with significantly more protection when blocking punches, so boxing experts are saying those extra 6 ounces of padding could literally be the difference between Floyd surviving 8 rounds or getting knocked unconscious.
There are possibly situations where both guys agree to go, you know, not to go 100% on each other or whatnot. Because again, I'll reiterate, Mike Tyson is still 58. No matter what you think of him, 58 years old brain. If they're really fighting, he's going to hit him. Tyson doesn't have that crazy head movement that he had in his youth. First of all, that's an energy-burning style. At 58 years old, you're not pulling that style off. Tyson didn't even have that style in his mid-30s when he was almost at retirement age. He was already not moving his head like that. So, I don't know, man.
At 58 years old, you're not pulling that style off, because Tyson didn't even have that style in his mid-30s when he was almost at retirement age, as he was already not moving his head like that. So I don't know, man. And Mike weighed 228 pounds for his Jake Paul fight last November, while Floyd came in at 161 pounds for his most recent exhibition against John Gotti 3, which is a 67 pounds weight difference. That's absolutely insane for any boxing match.
Between, I'd say 155, 150, go up and down. I try to keep my weight around 150, 155. If I go up a little bit higher, then, you know, I push myself a little bit more. You know, it's just the discipline for myself. I do it for myself. Even when I was fighting at 154,
right,
I was always walking
People close to the negotiations mentioned that Floyd's team keeps bringing up this weight gap as justification for all the special rules they are demanding, and some boxing historians are saying this might be the largest weight difference in any major combat sports event ever documented.
He's going to have an exhibition with Tyson, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mike is so much bigger than him.
Yeah,
he's
but
so much bigger than him.
He's not going to land a fist on Mayweather.
Right.
It's not after his last performance. It's heartbreaking to see a icon go out like that.
Yeah.
You know, and
but it's crazy also to see him fight at 57 years old. Like, that's nuts.
The round structure is another major point of contention based on what sources are hearing, because Floyd wants 2-minute rounds instead of 3-minute rounds with 8 rounds total for the fight, and this setup benefits his defensive style massively since it gives him less time per round to deal with Mike's pressure plus more frequent rest breaks between rounds. So Mike's team reportedly pushed back on this, initially wanting traditional 3-minute rounds but eventually agreed because they are confident Mike can hurt Floyd regardless of the time format. And here is where it gets even crazier, as sources claim the contract includes specific language about what happens if someone gets knocked down, because in normal professional boxing, if you get knocked down, the referee gives you a 10 count and the fight continues if you beat the count, but exhibition rules can be different. So people connected to the negotiations mentioned there might be provisions for extended recovery time, immediate medical evaluation, or even stopping the fight entirely if someone hits the canvas hard, which Floyd's team apparently insisted on for these protections.
How's training going, Floyd? Talk to me all about this as you get ready to get back in that boxing ring once again.
Well, not really training right now.
Not yet.
You know, the fight is in 2026. We still, ironing out everything. And I'm pretty sure
Mike's training camp footage that leaked online shows him absolutely destroying sparring partners with the same vicious combinations that made him the most feared heavyweight in history, and sources from his Las Vegas facility claim Mike recently caught a professional fighter named Marcus Williams with a liver shot followed by a right hook that sent Williams straight to the hospital, where Williams is 28 years old with a 15-3 record, and Mike put him down so hard that paramedics had to be called. So this incident happened less than 3 weeks ago, proving Mike's power at 59 is still legitimately dangerous. But Floyd's preparation approach is completely different according to people who've seen his training sessions, as he's working specifically with Derek James, a defensive specialist who trains elite level boxers like Errol Spence Jr. So sources say Floyd is drilling movement patterns designed to keep him on the outside of Mike's punching range at all times, and the strategy seems to be circle jab move and never ever get trapped on the ropes or in the corners where Mike does his most devastating work, because Floyd knows his only path to surviving is perfect defensive execution for 8 full rounds.
Slide and drop. Punch it, wait till you help me go. Drop.
The financial structure of this fight is absolutely massive according to insiders, as both fighters are guaranteed $50 million minimum before any pay-per-view revenue gets calculated, and sources claim the total event could generate between $500 million to $700 million when you factor in global broadcast rights from multiple countries, streaming platform deals, sponsorship packages, and live gate revenue from the stadium in Congo. So Mike and Floyd would split pay-per-view money on top of their guarantees, potentially earning each of them over $150 million total.
They have not liked each other forever.
Tyson and Mayweather.
Yes.
But they like
Mike
money.
Tyson and Mayweather don't like each other.
Huh.
It's
So
just
weird.
money grabs.
It's so weird,
Yeah, it is weird. It's money grabs. I don't like it, but it's fun. Something to watch.
The location choice of Democratic Republic of Congo carries huge symbolic weight, because this is where Muhammad Ali knocked out George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle back in 1974, which is one of the most iconic moments in boxing history. So promoters from CSY Sports specifically chose this location to create that same legendary atmosphere and global attention, and sources say the government of Congo is investing heavily in infrastructure upgrades to handle the massive international media presence and fan attendance this event will bring. But here is something most people don't know, as the contract reportedly includes clauses about judging and scoring, because even though it's an exhibition, sources claim there will be 3 licensed judges scoring every round using the standard 10-point must system. However, no official winner will be announced at the end regardless of the scorecards, which protects Floyd's perfect 50-0 record even if he loses every single round on all 3 card so he can walk away saying it was just an exhibition for entertainment, keeping his undefeated legacy completely intact.
In front of me, I'll beat him to show the world that I'm the best, and someday I will go down in history as the best. Dude, I beat more champions that's going in the Hall of Fame than he beat in his career period. So we gonna ask him more. Wow, I accomplished more than he did. Go to another guy. Let's go.
But Floyd, here's the thing.
I don't want to hear Mike's comments about this being detrimental to Floyd's health aren't just trash talk, because according to boxing analysts, Mike has 44 knockouts in his 58 professional fights, and his knockout percentage of 76% is one of the highest in heavyweight history, and even at 59 recent training footage shows Mike generating the same explosive power from his compact frame that terrorized opponents in the 80s and 90s, as biomechanics experts who studied his recent clips say his hip rotation and weight transfer are still technically perfect, meaning the power output hasn't declined despite his age.
Get ready, baby. Fire in the house. Yes, sir.
Floyd has never been knocked out in his entire professional career spanning 50 fights, but sources point out has also never faced anyone remotely similar to Mike Tyson, as the biggest punches Floyd beat were guys like Shane Mosley, Marcos Maidana, and Canelo Alvarez, who are all elite fighters, but none of them were true heavyweights with Mike's specific style of peekaboo pressure fighting, so boxing historians say there's literally no comparable matchup in Floyd's resume to draw conclusions from.
Than any fighter in history. I'm 50-0, but half of my fights was world title fights. Every day, when I just look around, and sometimes...
The medical requirements for this fight are extremely stringent according to people familiar with the process, as both fighters must pass comprehensive neurological exams including brain MRI scans, cognitive function tests, and cardiovascular stress testing, and Mike had an ulcer issue that delayed his Jake Paul fight by 4 months last year, but sources say his recent medical screenings came back completely clear, so Floyd's biggest concern is his hands, because he's dealt with brittle bone issues throughout his career that required special wrapping techniques and careful management. But here is a detail that's flying under the radar, as the contract allegedly specifies the exact ring size, because sources claim Floyd's team demanded a 24-foot ring instead of the standard 20-foot ring used in most boxing matches, and those extra 4 feet of space give Floyd significantly more room to move and circle away from Mike's pressure, since in a smaller ring Mike can cut off the angles much easier and trap Floyd against the ropes. So this ring size negotiation shows how much thought Floyd's team is putting into every single detail that might give him an advantage, and the referee selection process is another critical factor according to insiders, as sources say both camps have veto power over referee choices, and they're looking for someone with extensive experience in handling exhibition matches between older fighters, because the referee's style will massively impact how this fight plays out. If he lets them work on the inside and doesn't break clinches quickly, that favors Mike's smothering style, but if he constantly separates them and gives Floyd space to reset, that favors Floyd's movement and defensive approach. So training footage reveals completely opposite preparation philosophies, as Mike is doing old-school Rocky-style conditioning with 5 a.m. hill runs, hundreds of push-ups and sit-ups, brutal heavy bag sessions, and aggressive sparring, designed to maintain his killer instinct, while Floyd's training is ultra-technical, precise mittwork focusing on defensive positioning, footwork drills emphasizing lateral movement, and studying film of Mike's old fights looking for any exploitable patterns. And these contrasting approaches show that Mike is preparing for war while Floyd is preparing for a chess match. CSY Sports is planning multiple press conferences across different continents, face-off events in major cities, and a documentary series following both fighters through their training camps, as the goal is to make this the most marketed combat sports event in history, surpassing even Floyd's mega fight with Manny Pacquiao in 2015 that generated $600 million in total revenue. And with modern streaming platforms and social media reach, this Mike fight could potentially double those numbers. So sponsorship deals are already being finalized at record-breaking rates, because sources claim major global brands are paying between $5 million to $15 million each for prominent placement. during the broadcast and on fighter equipment, and the combination of Mike's legendary name recognition and Floyd's mainstream appeal creates a perfect storm for corporate marketing departments, as insiders mentioned that advertising slots during the broadcast are selling for premium rates comparable to Super Bowl commercials, so the weigh-in ceremony is being planned as a major event by itself because sources say it will happen 2 days before the fight, at a massive venue in Congo with full media coverage and potentially 50,000 fans in attendance, and this is where we will see the actual weight difference visually when Mike and Floyd stand next to each other on stage, as the promotional team knows the David versus Goliath imagery of Floyd at 160 next to Mike at 225 will create viral moments across every social media platform, and Mike's recent interview comments reveal his genuine mindset about this fight because he mentioned that boxing has entered a new era of the unpredictable, and this matchup is as unpredictable as it gets. Mike says he views this as a legacy-defining moment, a chance to prove that even at 59 has still the most dangerous puncher in boxing history, and Mike doesn't need the money anymore, so this is purely about competition and proving something to himself. But Floyd's perspective is completely different according to people who know him, as has been doing this for 30 years and believes no fighter can tarnish his legacy regardless of what happens in an exhibition, because Floyd views this as a massive payday with minimal risk to his actual professional record since exhibitions don't count. So sources say Floyd is extremely confident in his defensive abilities and thinks his ring IQ will overcome Mike's power advantage, and the question is whether that confidence is justified or if he's underestimating what Mike can still do while the broadcast rights negotiations are still ongoing. But sources mention Netflix, DAZN, ESPN Plus, and several international networks are all bidding aggressively for exclusive streaming rights because the Jake Paul fight on Netflix drew 65 million concurrent viewers, making it the most streamed sporting event ever recorded, and promoters believe this Floyd-Mike fight could reach 100 million viewers globally if it's marketed properly and made easily accessible across multiple platforms. So insurance requirements for an event like this are incredibly complex according to people familiar with the contracts, as both fighters need massive liability insurance policies in case of serious injury, and the promoters need event cancellation insurance in case either fighter gets hurt during training. So sources claim the total insurance costs for this one fight are running into tens of millions of dollars, but it's necessary protection given the age of both fighters and the physical risks involved. And the tale of the tape comparison is going to be fascinating because Mike stands 5'10" and will likely weigh around 225 to 230. While Floyd is 5'8" and will probably come in around 160 to 165, and Mike's reach is 71 inches while Floyd's is 72 inches, so that advantage basically cancels out. But the real difference is in the weight, power and fighting style, as Mike's aggressive pressure versus Floyd's defensive genius creates a classic striker versus counter-striker matchup taken to the absolute extreme. So the aftermath of this fight will be analyzed for years regardless of what happens, because if Mike catches Floyd clean and hurts him, it validates everything people have been saying about Mike's power still being elite. But if Floyd survives 8 rounds using pure defensive skill, it proves his technique can overcome a massive size and power disadvantage, and either outcome creates a legendary story that will be discussed in boxing circles forever.